Hey, Max Strong, greetings. How you doing? Victor Vasco, how you doing? Sound check. Is the mic coming in okay for you guys? Too loud, too soft? Dude Smart, how you doing? Paul Nagel, how you doing, Paul? Montague Fantasy, Monty here. I'll stick with Monty. How you doing, Monty? Penny Pinch and Prepper, where is silver going this week? I think for now it's I think it has to go back up and get into that $18 range, but we'll take a look. Okay, so quick mic check. If you can let me know how the mic sounding, I'd appreciate that. Camiola, Arthur, hello, how you doing, Camiola? Carl Pressler, hello all. Rilo, what a time to be alive. Yeah, that is true, indeed. Let's see. See something, say something, how you doing? A lot of new names here. I appreciate you guys being here. Welcome aboard. Penny Pinch and Prepper. Yeah, I'm hoping today will be something pretty good for you guys. So we'll start it up in just a minute or so. Tiger Roll, how you doing? Silver Slave 333, how you doing? Australia, good day. Good day down in Oz. Hope everything there is going well. Loud and clear, Tiger Roll, thank you, appreciate it. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started with the live stream. Cheers from Canada. Thank you, Renee. You as well. And here we go. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television, SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira. Just want to welcome everyone aboard. It's Monday morning here in Singapore, 9 a.m. in the morning. I know it's probably night wherever you are, unless you're in New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, or someplace in Asia. But again, I do thank you for being here this weekend. And again, if you have not already done so, or you're new to this channel, please do subscribe. Click on the bell to be notified on new updates. And do give us a thumbs up. We do appreciate your support. And don't forget, you can find us on social media as well. Our website is silverbullion.com.sg. SG, we are in Singapore. Silver Bullion, SG on Facebook. Twitter, at Silver Bullion PL, PL for private limited. If you just want the audio versions, bit.ly, SBTV iTunes, bit.ly, SBTV Spotify. And you can join our Crisis Tracker group as well on Telegram. I believe I left the link up at the top of the in the chat box, so the link is there if you want to go ahead and subscribe to our Crisis Tracker Telegram group. So again, just want to say hello to everyone. Thank you all for being here again. Let's see, Paul Nagel, level 8. Okay, let me see who else is here. Michael Otero, how you doing? Kia ora, buddy. Yeah, okay, so there were quite a few things that happened over the weekend, and we'll get into those real quick. First, we'll take a look, excuse me, at the gold price, silver and gold price. So we'll head on over to our website where, yes, now we do take Australian dollars, Hong Kong dollars, British pounds, Canadian dollars. Thanks to you guys, you folks have requested that, and so we went ahead and did that for you. And we still are having our promotion of 75% off transfer in charges if you do decide to go ahead and store with us. Nickel parcels, nickel is doing very well, but silver and gold, that's why most of us are here. Silver, 1776 currently, it's up 30 cents from this morning. Gold, 1506, it went above that $1,500 range again. 1750, not too bad. Nickel is up $100 as well. I think gold was a bit higher. I think it might have retreated somewhat, but the current ratio is 84 to 8, meaning it takes 84, roughly 85 ounces of silver to equal 1 ounce of gold. It's still a good time to be buying silver. Okay, Silver Slave. I love Singapore. It's absolutely a beautiful place. The whole place is a botanical garden. Yeah, they do it well here. Even though it is basically a city, there's still a lot of greenery, and it's something that the government made sure to do. Let's see. I think Tiger Roll. I think the correction is almost close to over. Then I jump in with both feet. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, was it a correction? Was it a set of circumstances pertaining to events where Trump had announced that the trade talks are back on? I think in October, so markets calmed down a bit, and maybe they decided that that flight to safety could be delayed for a little while. But it's interesting to see. Something else that was pretty interesting was John Bolton. This guy, you either like him or you don't. He's known to be pretty much, I'll just say it, a war hawk. He loves his he loves his confrontations. But anyway, National Security Advisor John Bolton out. He says he quit. Trump says he was fired. So of course we're gonna get a little bit of he said, between Trump and Bolton. But looking into it, President Trump said he fired National Security Advisor John Bolton on Twitter Tuesday afternoon amid reported personality and policy clashes in the White House. But Bolton claimed he had already offered his resignation. Basically, it's just these two guys kind of going back and forth. You're fired. No, I quit. You're fired. No, I quit. I don't really think it was a big deal. I think what the bigger deal was that was oh, hang on, let me check that. I think what a bigger deal was is that Bolton is a bit of a war hawk, and found it pretty uh, coincidental that the war hawk, when he gets out, then you see some things happening over in Saudi Arabia with these drones hitting some of the oil fields. So I mean, I just found it coincidental. As soon as they got the war hawk out, this thing goes ahead and happens. It's almost, excuse me for this. Hang on. Okay, sorry about that. It's almost as if to say, is there really a deep state that's taking command, and one of their guys was removed, and so they're just going to do their thing anyway, or was it a really, really backed by Houthi rebels, as was claimed? I don't know if we're ever going to know, but I know that I don't think we're ever going to really get the truth either. Silver price has been very volatile. That is true. I think Saudi attack may have cut the PM correction early. That is possible. Uh, Cryptomaniacs need some patience for this market. I'm included. Bolton gone. Deep state responds with false flag. Coincidence? Hard to say. That's what some people are saying. But I'll just go ahead and take a look at that. CNN just put something out not that long ago. So go ahead and take a look at it, where the attack on Saudi oil field, a game changer in Gulf confrontation. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to
You
hear
have to
this
bear in
video.
mind the seriousness of the allegation here, certainly levelled by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He's essentially saying that Iran was behind a major attack on Saudi Arabia's oil infrastructure. That could massively escalate already fraught tensions here in the region. Iran has come straight out this morning and denied it. Its senior diplomat, Mike Pompeo's counterpart, Javed Zarif, saying on Twitter, having failed at, quote, max pressure, Secretary Pompeo is turning to, quote, max deceit. Referring to maximum pressure being the policy the US has been maintaining against Iran since it got out of the nuclear deal hatched by Barack Obama and began reinstalling sanctions. Zarif goes on to say the US and its clients are stuck in Yemen because of the illusion that weapon superiority will lead to military victory. He's referring to how Saudi Arabia, a US ally, and a government in Yemen is fighting the Yemeni Houthi rebels who are accused of launching these drone strikes and accept themselves. They say they took responsibility for launching these 10 drones that they say carried out the attack. He goes on to say, blaming Iran won't end disaster, accepting our April 2015 proposal to end the war and begin talks May. He's referring again to the nuclear deal there. Iran's been saying, look, let's get back to talking, but you have to ease sanctions against Iran first. I've got to point out to you the technicalities of these allegations here now. It is a startlingly dangerous moment we're at here in the Middle East, certainly. Saudi Arabia and Iran, long-term adversaries here who've been sparring over the past years or so. The doubt really is who will be capable of carrying out attacks as sophisticated as this. Now, some say we're talking about relatively minor sophistication in terms of the drones, that the Houthi rebels in Yemen are capable of launching something like this. They've got better at technology over time and may have been able to pull something like this off, even though it requires flying through a lot of Saudi Arabia to get to these oil facilities. Others are saying, well, actually, the finger points more logically towards somewhere like southern Iraq, where Iran, even the Houthis potentially have allies and influence too. That may be where it comes from. The point is, there's no evidence for the claims at this point, and so Mike Pompeo, I think, will be under increasing pressure to back up his allegation that Iran is somehow responsible for this.
Okay, so we're going to have to figure out what happened there. But one thing I'm going to have to bring up at this point already. I think a lot of us have known this for a while. Whenever it came to this Iran deal that CNN and everyone else likes to talk about, but I'm curious, have you folks ever taken a look at the Iran deal? So I'll bring this up for you, and this is it right here, the Iran deal. Secretary of State. It's basically there's your heading. It was sent to Mike Pompeo. This is when John Kerry was the Secretary of State, and so this is the Iran deal right here. Thank you for your September 18th letter regarding the nuclear deal with Iran. This is where it gets pretty darn interesting. Let me just highlight it here. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or the JCPOA, which is the Iran deal is known as, is not a treaty. The deal is not a treaty or an executive agreement. The deal is not an executive agreement and is not a signed document. No one signed it. The JCPOA reflects political commitments between Iran, the P5+1, which is the US, UK, France, Germany, Russia, and China, along with the European Union. As you know, the US has a long-standing practice of addressing sensitive problems in negotiations that culminate in political commitments. So far, what we know about this Iran deal is it's not a treaty, not an executive agreement, not even a signed document at this point, and it's just a reflection of political commitments. Now, there's a problem there because politicians always change. We elect new politicians. So when a new politician or president comes in, like Trump, how do you hold him accountable to this when it's a reflection of political commitment of a president at that time the deal or whatever this document is was made? So I'm not really following this because, like I say, there's too many holes in it right now. The success of the JCPOA will depend on whether, or will not depend on whether it is legally binding or signed, but rather on the extensive verification measures we have put in place, as well as Iran's understanding that we have the capacity to reimpose and ramp up our sanctions if Iran does not meet its commitments. So it's not a treaty. It's not an executive agreement. It's not a signed document. It's just a reflection of a political commitment. One thing we know about politicians, they aren't always truthful, or they never really stick to their commitments. And the success of this Iran deal doesn't depend on whether or not it's legally binding or signed, but it depends on the verification measures that were put in place, as well as Iran's understanding that we have the capacity to reimpose sanctions. So basically, I'll come down to the last part here, where this part is curious. There are no secret deals between the P5+1 and Iran. That's pretty strange. I mean, it's like they're saying there's no secret deals. Why? Does that mean normally there are secret deals, that this time around we have to go ahead and say that there are no secret deals? So basically, what I'm saying is, when we hear this Iran deal, like CNN was just saying, a lot of this is happening because of the Iran deal and Trump backing out of the Iran deal. I think we have to, in fairness, understand what the Iran deal was, and what we're seeing is nobody really committed to this thing. Nobody signed it. It's not a treaty or anything like that. So how are how are we to blame someone for uh, basically a document that has holes all over the place in it? So anyway, that's pretty interesting. So I just want to go ahead and see what you guys have to say. Uh, Frank, good morning. See something, say something. We want peace. Absolutely. That's all we want. We just want peace. Jet fuel cannot melt steel beams. 9/11. Well, you know what? Me personally, I have a hard time with it as well. Anyway, Candy, greetings. Uh, Tiger Roll Building 4 wasn't even hit by, yeah. I think Building 7 perhaps. Yeah, true. Yeah, Building 7. Okay, Silver Slave. What's the go with the Antarctic Treaty? All countries signed it. No slave can go past their checkpoints. Silver Slave, you're diving deep in that one. Yeah, I do hear a few theories about that, but we got to save those for another time. That one's pretty deep. Silver Slave again, amazing. The video of Building 7 falling straight down. True. Robert Preston, who made the drones and the weapons? Where did they originate from? Who guided the weapons, and who trained those who guided them? I think first thought we might all have a little answer in our minds as to who it may be, but again, all these things we'll save for another day. I don't want to get too much into this, except to say that this maybe this event may be driving the silver and the gold price back up somewhat. But we'll see what happens with price of oil. I don't think it moved that much. I haven't checked it, but we're going to see what happens with it. Anyway, I want to get into this. I'm not sure how many of you folks have ever heard of this gentleman named Robert Kahre, or I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. No, I think most of you guys know what this is. It's an upside down gold eagle, which I will turn back around for you. Hang on, sorry about that. Okay, so anyways, it's a gold eagle that you can't really see. But sorry about that. Sorry about that. On the back of it, when you guys take a look at your coins, you notice there's a legal tender. There you go. Or it says actually $50, correct? As we see here, 1 ounce fine gold, $50. Okay. And this is the same as well for gold buffaloes. It's the same thing, 1 ounce of fine gold, and it's valued at $50. And we get, there you go, $50 fine gold. Okay. So it's kind of curious why are these legal tender numbers, and I'm just going to say numbers, why are these legal tender amounts on these coins? I mean, can we go ahead and spend them for $50? I would assume we could, except that there's two issues. Number one, people might not know what it is to accept it, and number two, you wouldn't want to be spending a gold coin that's at about $1,500 right now for just $50. So there's two things that are working against it. But I want to bring up this story about Robert Kahre. I'm not sure how many of you guys know who he is, but this is pretty interesting. Let me make it a bit larger so hopefully you guys can see. Hang on. Okay, the U.S. versus Robert Kahre, a horrible miscarriage of justice. So again, I'm not sure how many of you guys are familiar with this. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has upheld the criminal conviction of Robert Kahre, the man who incurred the wrath of the IRS by paying his employees in gold coin. Since the face value of the gold coins, which what we just took a look at, was significantly below the legal threshold, that triggers withholding taxes, the court held that Kahre did not do his duty to serve as tax collector for the U.S. welfare warfare state. Okay, this author has a little bit of a bias going on, but it's okay. Welfare warfare state by withholding income taxes from the monies paid to his employees. He's now serving a 15-year sentence in the federal penitentiary. Would have been nice if he were out. Maybe we could have tried and gotten to come on. By his actions, Kahre has exposed the fraud of the U.S. government's labeling of gold coins as legal tender and exposed the U.S. government's decades-long fraudulent debasement of its paper money. Keep in mind that our American ancestors fully and completely rejected the paper money system under which Americans now live. That's why gold and silver coins were America's official money for the first 150 years of our country's history. During that time, Americans did not use irredeemable paper money for their economic transactions, as today's Americans do. They used gold coins and silver coins. Periodically, the U.S. government would borrow money. To do so, it issues bonds, notes, and bills. Sometimes the notes and bills would circulate, but everyone understood that they were actually promises to pay money, not money itself. Now, welfare warfare state, the welfare state revolution brought on by FDR, Franklin Roosevelt administration, or just Franklin Roosevelt, I should say. America's monetary system came to a screeching halt, and without even the semblance of a constitutional amendment, FDR and his statist cronies simply decreed that gold and silver coins would no longer be the official money of the U.S. Instead, the government's paper bills and notes would be. Americans were ordered on pain of fine and imprisonment to turn their gold over to the government. It was one of the most remarkable events of U.S. history. Okay, so let me get a bit to Frank Kahre. Just read a couple more paragraphs for you. Why did those bills and notes that were now circulating as money promise to pay, or what did they promise to pay? Nothing. While they were still called bills and notes, they promised to pay nothing. I find nothing to be an interesting word in that when you look at it, it means no and it means thing. No thing. It's backed by no thing. They promise to pay you no thing, nothing. Now the beauty of the scheme from the standpoint of US officials is that they could now spend whatever they wanted on their welfare warfare state schemes. The sky on federal spending was now the limit. All they had to do was just keep printing money to finance their schemes. Now that's true. Okay, so let's get to Robert Kahre here. Um, so let's say you had that gold coin, which we just showed you, face value $50. Suppose you want to purchase something that costs 50, you could pay the seller that $50 gold coin, and he would be required under law to accept it. But as we mentioned, why wouldn't we do that? Because first, you could go out and sell the coin for, say, a lot more money in paper money, and then you could pocket the rest. But let's assume, for argument's sake, that the buyer does in fact pay for the item with the $50 gold coin and later sues the seller for $1,200 and change. Could he recover? No, he can't, because the gold coin is legal tender at its face value. Once the buyer pays for the item with the gold coin, that's it. That's the end of the transaction. Now, let's say an employer and an employee enter into an employment contract in which the employee agrees to work for $100. At the end of the month, the employer pays the employee 2 gold coins, legal tender amount $100, each with a face value of 50. His income is $100 a month. Now, this is what Robert Kahre did. He since he triggered IRS, the $100 was not enough to trigger IRS withholding requirements. Kahre didn't withhold income taxes from his employees. So the IRS and the Ninth Circuit say, no, you can't do this. Even though those gold coins are legal tender under the law, you have to use their fair market value in terms of paper money in determining the employee's actual compensation. That brings up a lot of questions. Firstly, how does the federal judiciary justify this, given that the gold coins they are legal tender at their fair price value? The Ninth Circuit says that IRS regulations require compensation paid in property, gold coin, rather than cash be valued at fair market value in terms of paper money. Since gold coins are property, the court says they must be valued at their fair market value in terms of paper money. This author goes on to say, wait a minute. Gold coins are cash. They're just as much cash as the government's paper money, which, like gold coins, is also property. If Congress doesn't want US gold coins to serve as money, then why does it just make 1 ounce coins without a monetary denomination stamped on them? True, right? Why does it make the gold coins legal tender? And pray tell, since when does an IRS regulation overrule a law enacted by Congress? Well, what Kahre did is expose the fraud behind all this, which is what has made welfare warfare state officials go ballistic. Either US gold coins are legal or they are not. Either they are cash or they are not. If they're not cash or legal tender, then it's wrong for the US government to be representing that they are cash and legal tender. That's fraud. So I'll end it there, but I'm curious what you guys think. I'll go ahead and read some of the comments. The Fed feeds the war machine. High oil, high oil products crash the economy. High oil is inflation. Um, Futures have gone up. That's true. Silver parked on 18. Yep, that's true. Let's see what else is here. Great loophole. Yeah, it is. It's a loophole. I just found it kind of interesting that, why do we have a legal tender on these coins if the government is not going to value them, or I should say the government knows the coin has a market value, but there's a far, far, far lower legal tender value on it. So, I just found that pretty interesting. And then you come into these two terms though. You come into this question of what is legal tender and what is lawful money. And there's a big difference between the two. Looking it up, legal tender, according to Investopedia, legal tender is any official medium of payment recognized by law that can be used to extinguish a public or private debt or meet a financial obligation. The national currency is legal tender in practically every country. A creditor is obligated to accept legal tender toward repayment of debt. Legal tender can only be issued by the national body that is authorized to do so, such as the U.S. Treasury in the U.S. and Royal Canadian Mint in Canada. In the U.S., the recognized legal tender consists of U.S. dollars and coins issued by the Federal Reserve. This part coins, I'm not so sure. I think the U.S. Treasury is the one that issues the coins, where the Fed issues the dollars. A check or a credit swipe is therefore not legal tender. Okay, a check or credit swipe is therefore not legal tender. It merely represents a means by which the holder of the check can eventually receive legal tender for debt. Okay, that more or less is legal tender. Now, what's lawful money? Uh, Lawful money, defined again from Investopedia. Lawful money is any form of currency issued by the U.S. Treasury and not the Federal Reserve. That's pretty interesting, right? Lawful money does not come from the Federal Reserve. Lawful money includes gold and silver coins, treasury notes, and treasury bonds. Lawful money stands in contrast to fiat money. Don't we use fiat money? In which the government assigns value, although it has no intrinsic value on its own and is not backed by reserves. Fiat money includes Legal tender, such as paper money, checks, drafts, and bank notes. So, what's going on here? We have legal tender, but lawful money, according to the definition of lawful money is gold and silver coins, treasury notes, treasury bonds. What's going on? Really, it's kind of mind-boggling when you look at these things. Okay, sorry, getting to some of your comments. Uh, Thomas Stoops, how you doing? They always juggle the rules to benefit them, not us. That's correct. Bin Chin Xiao, how you doing? What if he pays in junk silver or equivalent silver value in paper? Yeah, you would not even want to use your junk silver. You want to hang on to that. Let's see. Silver gold constitutional is legal tender only. Let's see. Joey Vargas, how familiar are you with maritime laws and how they affect our judiciary and legislative system? Not that familiar, Joey, to be honest. Something you want to share about that? Maritime law, does it say anything about our financial system? Paper, money, silver, gold? Let's see. Oliver Twist, how you doing? First time I've seen you here. Welcome aboard. They should release Kahre. He did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong except to let all of us know about what's going on with gold, silver, fiat, and all of that, and a way to get around paying taxes. That's what he did wrong. Kind of like Peter Schiff's father, Erwin Schiff, right? I mean, IRS doesn't want you to know all these little loopholes going on. And so if the IRS is watching, hey, it's not us. We're just a messenger. We're not we're not concocting any schemes here. Okay. Say, I wonder if he's paying his lawyer in gold. I take it. I think most of us might take it as well. Candy, this is exactly why I diversify. Silver Eagles are legal tender, property of U.S. government to be precise, and silver rounds, which are not, both are an ounce of silver though. Yeah, Candy, you know what? That's a great point. The definition between a round and a coin, as far as I remember, a coin is issued by government and it has a legal tender value on it. A round, if you look at a round, it's never really going to tell you, $1, $5, whatever it is. They can't do that. It's just the government minted coins, when the sovereign coins. When you look at like the U.S. mint coins, Canadian mint coins, Australian mint coins, they all have a legal tender value. Rounds can't do that, and that's one of the other reasons why you will see guys not really go into rounds. I mean, they look nice. They may get them just for to break up the monotony and have a different looking silver coin, but they will also stick to coins that have a legal tender on them. So that's a good point, Kendi. Peter Wilson, Erwin Schiff was a true patriot. Yeah, he was. It was kind of sad the way his the 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 later part of his life, or the latter part of his life. Let's see, Silver Slave Joey Vargas. Maritime law isn't it all based on maritime law, like they are pirates? Pirates. Speaking of pirates, I was reading a book, and did you know the Bank of England was first set up by a retired pirate? If you can believe that. And I was joking around with the guys in the office where I didn't know pirates retired. I mean, what do they do? Do they? The guy just wakes up one morning and he says, "You know what? I'm tired of walking around on this wooden leg. I'm going to retire today." But anyway, he's this retired pirate. He started off the Bank of England, if you can believe that. I'll get the name of this guy eventually and give it to you. Let's see. Technically, one should not refer to rounds as coins. Thomas Tubes, yeah, that is correct. Rounds are rounds, coins are coins, and it's because of that legal tender value. Joe C. Nickel is the big winner. Nickel is doing pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. Let's see. Silver Goyim. First time I've seen you. Also, welcome aboard. Pirate currently run all central banks. Okay. All right. Uh, Ride the curve. The U.S. should ratify the zero tenth maybe amendment. All and only gold, silver are legal tender for exchange in commerce. As of now, right, the curve, I think states states can only use gold and silver as legal payment of debt. And the loophole I think that they found was they're not talking about the federal government. They're referring to states. States can use or should use or only can use gold and silver. States don't mint coins anymore. It's the federal government. And the federal government did not fall under that directive from the Constitution. It was only the states. So that was, in my opinion, how they kind of got around that. Let's see. Joey Vargas, I'm trying to inform myself more on it. They infringe on common land laws through maritime law. They sneak in and infringe on our sovereign rights. Do you think a 1 ounce bar would be just as accepted as a coin unless it has that legal tender value? And one thing with gold and silver, this is just my opinion. I think about the person who I may have to eventually sell it off to. Now, if I'm that person receiving gold and silver, I would feel more comfortable receiving gold and silver that had been issued by a government and had a legal tender value on it. Now, even though that legal tender value may not mean anything, it's just to say that a government created this coin more so than uh, than Joe's Mint down the road that also makes silver coins. Now, even though they're both silver, I would feel more comfortable buying a coin from a government instead of Joe's Mint, and for that reason, I tend to stick myself personally with sovereign coins, U.S. Mint, Canadian Mint, things like that. Not to say anything's wrong with rounds. Not to say don't buy rounds. If you like it, go ahead and get it. Still silver. I'm just saying when I look at the person who I may be selling it to, that person probably would be more comfortable buying a coin that came from the government. Anyway, let's see. Coins have protection. Bullion does not. Secret Service will go after counterfeiters. Could be. Could be. Uh, RR, interesting. Two farmers here trading produce for silver coin. Hey, where's that at? RR. Be interested to know. Uh, Paddy, in China, counterfeiting currency is not illegal. It's illegal to counterfeit their currency, but they can go ahead and mint coins, other countries' coins, and a lot of times we do run across it, fake coins that do look like silver eagles, and they're out there. They're out there, and a lot of them do point from the coming from that direction. Okay, so it is someone's anniversary. Hey, one more thing I wanted to show you guys regarding the legal tender and lawful money. We're so far removed from it. A lot of people don't even understand the value of gold and silver anymore. And I think most of you guys probably have seen this clip, but I'll go ahead and play it nonetheless. It's always a good refresher.
I'm Mark Dice, and this is a 1 ounce gold coin, a Canadian gold coin, worth about $1,500, where I could go and cash it in at just about any coin shop in America for cash. But I'm going to try to sell it to some random people, see if they want to get a good deal on gold today. Trying to get some extra money to pay my cell phone bill, so I'm selling my 1 ounce gold maple leaf coin.
That's all right.
Are you interested?
No, not really.
It's a $50 Canadian maple leaf.
No,
Offering it for half price today, $25.
no, that's good. I'm good.
I just, you can go right into the Encinitas coin shop and we can verify that it's real.
Value. No, I'm good. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm just curious, why wouldn't you be interested in that?
I'm just not interested in it.
But specifically, why wouldn't you be?
I just have no interest.
I mean, who needs a bunch of gold coins laying around? Right? Hello, having a special today on 1 ounce gold coins. It's a $50 Canadian maple leaf solid 1 ounce gold coin. Offering it today for half price, $25.
No thanks.
Why wouldn't you be interested?
I don't need any gold coins.
Don't need any for $25?
Nope.
I'll go with you into the coin shop and verify that it's real.
That's okay.
No, not interested.
Good try, though.
You have a bunch of them laying around at home?
No, none.
No. Well, I don't really know what to say.
I'm sure you'll find someone out here.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
keep trying.
Good luck.
Thanks. Well, you can go into this coin shop and verify that it's authentic, and even probably sell it to them, maybe for more money than what you bought it from me for.
No, thank you, though.
Just give me $20.
No, thank
Give me $20, and then you can go right over to that coin shop and sell it to them for a small profit.
$20. Let me touch it.
Just give me $20, and then you can go into that coin shop right there, 50 feet away, and then you can sell it for a small profit.
I can't do that.
Okay.
Okay, so I think you I think you guys get the point here. Yeah, that was an old Mark Dice clip. He did do it also with silver, and he's giving away candy. He's giving people the choice between if they want gold or silver and candy bars, and almost everyone took the candy bars. And there was one time, the one that I did see where someone actually took the silver coin. He had a silver eagle. No one was taking it. And then one guy actually took it from him, and he was European. And it was interesting how he basically has a hard time getting people in the US to understand it. And then these Europeans were there. I don't know if they were on vacation or what, but he bought it. He bought it from Dice, from Mark Dice, and I thought that was pretty cool until he said he bought it as a souvenir. I thought he was maybe buying it because he knew it was sound money, but he bought it because he thought it was a souvenir as well. 18 karat gold toilet. I kind of saw something about that Winston Churchill's toilet or something. Somebody stole it, or I don't know what it was. I didn't read through it, but I just kind of glanced over it. Smart people will know what a gold coin is worth. Yeah, it's. I think it's more people who are awake. This isn't. I don't think it's a matter of a person's intellect. I think it's just more a matter of, number one, how open a person is to investigate things or look into things and not just sleepwalk, and how awake he is. And that's the thing. If people are awake, they have probably heard this story over and over and over, and it just takes time for them to go ahead and pull the trigger to actually go and buy some gold and silver. First one is always the hardest, but for a lot of people, I think as soon as you feel that the weight of that coin in your hand, you realize, hey, this is money. Okay, so let me get to second part of what I wanted to talk about, which is it's someone's anniversary today. And do any of you guys know whose anniversary it is? I want to see it. I want to see who knows. Okay, Vincent Sao. I mean, if someone feels that it could be real gold coin, like that would be worth more than $20, no? Yeah, that's part of it, but I think it's really either you know or you don't, and the legal tender value on that coin, it's not going to matter. You know if it's a real gold coin, and then it just matters what the price is of it that someone's trying to sell it to you for, and what the price of it is now. I think that's the part that matters most. And there was a shop right there. They could have easily gone into the shop, verify it, and see what the price was. Okay, let's see. I heard about Jefe Solcero. Sorry about that. I heard about one where they went on the street and offered people the choice of a chocolate bar or a silver bar. Yeah, that's the one. A lot of people took the candy bar. I tell you what, I don't think I can do that here in Singapore. I've thought about it, but I think people here, a lot of them do know their gold. They do know their silver. So I don't think I can chance that here. I'd be out of gold and silver real quick. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, today is the anniversary of Lehman Brothers bankruptcy. And this happened a few years ago, back in 2008, I think it was. And I managed to find this timeline online And this basically talks about that whole financial crisis back in 2008. And there's a little timeline that kind of puts the pieces together. And Gaylord Perry's no, great picture though. So it sorry about that. It goes back to 2007, home sales peak. So this was when the home sales started. They were at the top, and then they weren't really selling anymore, and so it was starting to be noticed that okay, these home sales, they're slowing down. The Fed leaders, they battle on possible lingering recession. Take a quick look at this article here. Stocks were mixed Friday. Again, this is back in 2007, March 2nd, 2007. Okay. Stocks were mixed Friday morning as investors welcomed AIG stock buyback plan. Stock buybacks. There you go. Back in 2007, AIG concocting a stock buyback plan, liquidity, right? And took in stride Dell's ho-hum profit outlook, but remained wary at the end of a tough week on Wall Street. Dow Jones Industrial Average. Basically, they knew they were starting to get into trouble somewhat back then. So this is 2007. 2007 also, stock markets rebound from one of the worst weeks in equities week before. Again, March 2007, housing market starts to take a toll on the financial industry. April, several indicators and warning signs are ignored by the Fed. Okay, so the Fed was already kind of looking away from this, and we had guys like the infamous Peter Schiff, where he I think he even has this video on YouTube where Peter Schiff was right. But guys were saying, what's going on? Homeowners begin to receive help. Timeline still going on. Durable goods report shows a recession is near. Report of home sales statistics begin to turn. Bear Stearns bails out of its fund. This is still all 2007. July, Bear discloses the collapse of two major funds. August 6th, American Home Mortgage Investment goes broke. August 7th, Fed lowers Fed fund rate. The FOMC lowers the Fed funds rate from 4.7 to 4.75 from 5.25. Hey, it's kind of like what we're seeing now, right? Fed starting to lower their funds rate. But back then, as you can see, we were at 5.25. They went down to 4.75. Later on, getting towards the end of 2007, $75 billion super fund created. Paulson persuaded JP Morgan and Citi, Bank of America, to set up a distressed debt fund to buy subprime mortgages to provide some banks easy access to liquid cash. October, Fed Governor Randall Kroszner warns of misvaluation of CDOs. They're starting to figure it out. Robert Kroszner, Fed Governor, warns that people, even the experts, do not know how to value CDOs since the complexity of their nature. He also warns about the credit market never being the same. So, 2007, Randall Kroszner is already saying, he's warning the credit market will never be the same again. How do you like that? Okay. 2007 still, end of the year. Private equity falters. Analysts estimate a drop in private equity deals down to 91 billion from the previous high of 177 billion. Auctioning of 40 billion of loans. After lowering the federal fund rate, banks still refuse to lend due to the fear of getting caught up with bad illiquid debt on their balance sheet. Further entice lending, the Fed set up term auction facilities, which are basically auctions of loans that would get paid back to the Fed. They're really trying here. They're coming up with all kinds of things right now. Foreclosure rates double. December, Foreclosures became 97% higher than the year prior. Negative GDP growth. GDP growth was now expected to fall this quarter due to mass amounts of people using home equity lines of credit. That was pretty popular, right? A lot of people did it. In conjunction with the decrease in home prices, this leads to lower consumer spending. U.S. officially enters recession December 2007. U.S. officially enters a recession. Starting off the year, January 2008, Bank of America buys Countrywide Financial. We all know Countrywide got into a big problem. I forget the guy's name, but I don't think he could afford to go in that tanning booth anymore, right? February, Bush signs economic stimulus package. President George W. Bush signs an economic stimulus package in the form of a tax rebate in an effort to curb housing crisis. Aren't we talking about some forms of tax rebates now? I mean, lowering taxes for this class, that class. Essentially or effectively, it's kind of the same as the tax rebate. They're trying to get money into the people's hands so they can go ahead and spend it, kick up the velocity of money, and try and push up the economy. But none of it's working right now. None of it worked back then. March 2008, the bailout begins. U.S. government announces it will release large loans to banks. This was the part I had a problem with back then. I sort of felt like, you know what, why don't you give the money to the people, especially the people who have homes or whatnot. Give them vouchers. You give them a voucher, the money goes back to the bank anyway. If you gave them a voucher that was good for a mortgage, it'll go back to the bank, which means the bank got the money back anyway, but it may help kickstart the economy again with the velocity of money. It would have helped people out where they were free, maybe a month or two or three, maybe a year. I don't know how they would have done it, but it would have freed them up where they could have went and spent money directly into the economy, kick up the economy, velocity of money. Don't know. We'll never know. March 2008, Fed bails out bond dealers. U.S. government announces it will bail out bond dealers by lending them $200 billion in Treasury notes. Treasury notes, lawful money. First emergency Fed meeting in 30 years. March 2008, the Fed holds its first meeting in over 3 decades, agreeing to guarantee Bear Stearns assets in a JP Morgan Chase buyout. Okay, so I guess they're lining up the ducks or the dominoes right now. Who are they going to let fall and who's going to stand? I think we all remember that. Again in March, FMOC lowers fund rate by 75 basis points. Fed's making some pretty huge cuts. Shortly after, Fed lowers fund rates again. They're down to 2%, which is where we are today. So all of these things happened, and they went from 5.25 all the way down to 2. Still couldn't get it under control. So what does that say about this time? We're already at 2, and there's no way we're going to be able to, or I don't think there's any way we're going to be able to hold off or turn around these things from happening if they start to play out the same way they did. Fed buys bank debt, 2008. Again, 2008, U.S. government takes over Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. And here we are today, September 15th, 2008, the anniversary of Lehman Brothers filing their bankruptcy. Lehman Brothers files bankruptcy, showing that too big to fail was not a viable means of running a bank. So I know you guys have been typing there. I'll get to some of these comments here. Let's see. Metals work both ways, Candy. Sure do. They're going to stimulate my sideways. Okay. I'll let's not have a dirty mind when we read that one. They're going to stimulate your stack. Okay. Yes, those bailouts were insane. How the heck didn't people riot over that? Silver Slave, I think people just didn't really understand for one thing, and I think on the other part, a lot of people in the US, they don't own stocks, or at least they think they don't own stocks. The 401k does, but I think for the average Joe, he probably did not see it that hard. I'm not saying no one saw it. People did see it, but for the ones that over leverage, which there were quite a few. They 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 knew. You know what you're doing when you say you make X amount every year, but you're kind of fudging your application just to get that home. So I think maybe some people kind of felt it part of it was their doing, but there was really a big part of it that had to do with banks and what they were doing as well. Let's see. Tiger Roll. I have an electric car to fill up is about 30 cents per day. Hey, great. That's not too bad. Okay, let's see. Mentioned Sal, does Singapore have legal tender gold, silver coins? What are the denominations? No, they don't. They don't. And my own personal feeling is I think they're asleep at the wheel with this. Singapore is one of the precious metals hubs in Southeast Asia. In fact, they are the place to go. But they have no sovereign coin, no gold or silver bullion type of coin. I mean, they do. I should back up. They do. Singapore Mint, they do make them, but not on the scale of, let's say, Canadian Mint or U.S. Mint. They're more. I would almost call them collectible at this point. They're not. Again, they're not in the same arena with Canadian Mint type of coins, U.S. Mint, Austrian Mint, Perth Mint. It's just not there yet, and I think they have a lot of work to do, and I think they should put in the work, put in the time to get a sovereign coin out there. Okay, let's see. John Michael Karma Ninja. Yeah, those ninja loans. They no income, no job, but hey, you can still get a house, right? Let's see. Candy, platinum, palladium are industrial metals. True, mostly they are. They are. Platinum, a little bit more in jewelry as well, but industrial coins, yeah. Let's see. Okay, sorry. Okay, yeah, platinum. Platinum, I think it's been on a roll lately. I think it has been moving somewhat. But okay, so anyway, this was the timeline of the Lehman collapse. Now, the interesting part is when you go back and look at it all, like let's say this article coming from 2015, all the news back then was good news. Boomtown, USA. Something strange happens when real estate makes everybody rich. Is this where your town is headed? And basically, these were people flipping homes and making good amounts of money on it, or thinking they were going to make good amounts of money on it. In this case, there was a house across the street from this woman that sold for 740,000, and she figures her place is already worth 200,000 more than she paid. She had bought her place for a little bit less than half a million, I think, at that time, and she had saw that places around her, they were selling, they were moving up, moving up, moving up, selling for much higher. So she kind of felt, hey, we're already in the plus, some 200,000. And whatever happens, it's clear that something big and basic in the way Americans think about housing has changed. It used to be you'd start with something modest and move up. Remember your starter homes, right? And then move up as your family and income grew. And that was pretty much the end of it. A house was a home first and an investment second, if at all. No more. For many of us, a house has become a way to pay for retirement or the kids' education, or simply a way to get rich. And something else happening at that time, I think this was in 2006. Yeah. Lehman Brothers, who the anniversary of their bankruptcy is today, back in 2008. In 2006, just 2 years earlier, super hot machine. how CEO Dick Fuld transformed the notoriously fractious firm from Wall Street, also ran to global powerhouse. Okay, let me make this a little bit larger. Okay. Lehman Brothers, a 156-year-old firm that has had numerous brushes with death, is now enjoying its greatest run ever. If only they knew, right? Richard S. Fuld Jr., 59, took over the notoriously fractious Lehman Brothers 13 years ago when it was a forgotten subsidiary within the rat's nest that was Shearson American Express. Driven partly by those who dismissed him and his firm as a second or even third rate, Fuld transformed Lehman from Wall Street weakling to global powerhouse. Consider this: when Lehman went public in 1994, it had only 75 million in earnings with a paltry return on equity of 2.2%. Fast forward 2005, and the turnaround is breathtaking. Lehman booked 32 billion in revenues, 3.2 billion in profits, and hit 19.4% in return on equity. Over the past decade, Lehman stock is up 29% per annum on average, highest of any major securities firm, and 16th best on the Fortune 500. In many ways, Fuld is precisely what you'd expect in a firm that was once defined by its internecine warfare, aggressive, confrontational, blunt. Okay, so this is Dick Fuld, and we see all this good news coming out about him. He's the man. He was the man, for sure. And it's not just that. We also saw in 2006, we saw something that looks kind of similar to today right now. Yield or yields throw the Fed a curve. This is back in 2006 before everything unraveled, right? 10-year Treasury yield slips below Fed funds rate for the first time since last recession, sparking debate about economy, Fed rate policy. Guys, isn't this the news going on today? We're seeing more or less the exact same things, right? 10-year Treasury below the Fed funds rate. This was a warning for the Fed back then, 2006. Didn't pay attention much to it. Three of the scariest words in economies used to be inverted yield curve, the condition which occurs when long-term interest rates are lower than short-term rates in the Treasury's bond market, was once seen as a pretty clear sign of a recession ahead. And while that's changed, not sure how it's changed. And while that's changed, many economists now say an inversion is more a sign of a slowing economy than a coming recession. The action in the bond market at that time, Wednesday morning, had some experts saying the Federal Reserve may finally be forced to pause in its rate hiking campaign so as to not upset financial markets. Didn't we just have President Trump saying this a few months back? He was saying the exact same things. Here we go, all over again, right? It's not among the top 5 things they're reading, but I don't think they're ignoring it totally, said Tom Schlesinger, Executive Director, Financial Market Center, a research firm that follows the Fed closely. The inversion at that time was different than the inversion that occurred late last year. They always say an inversion is different. Anyway, and earlier this year, when the 10-year Treasury yield fell below the yield on shorter-term Treasury securities, the inversion came as the 10-year yield fell briefly below the Fed funds rate, the Fed's short-term rate target, currently 5%. It was the first time that's happened since April 2001. The last time the country was in a recession, the 10-year yield dipped briefly below the Fed funds rate. I thought it was different that time, right? Wednesday morning, after the report showed a big drop in demand in April for cars, refrigerators, and other big ticket items known as durable goods. But when a report on new home sales came in above forecast, 90 minutes later, even 10-year Treasury yield edged back above the 5% level. Ever since the Fed said decisions on future rate hikes would be data dependent, all of a sudden, all the numbers matter. Okay, so let's go down here. Recent comments at the time, Fed Chairman Bernanke repeated the view expressed by his predecessor, Alan Greenspan, that an inverted yield curve is no longer a good indicator of a recession ahead. In previous sorry, in previous episodes, when an inverted yield curve was followed by recession, the level of interest rates was quite high. Consistent with considerable financial restraint, Bernanke said in a speech in March, this time both short and long-term interest rates in nominal and real terms are relatively low by historical standards. He was saying back then they're low, okay? And we were at 5%, right? And he was saying it was low. Okay. Ian McCauley, analyst with Grant's Interest Rate Observer, a financial newsletter, said he doesn't think the Fed will feel constrained by the recent moves in the bond market. The curve between the 3 and the 10-year was inverted or flat earlier this year, and they tightened into that, he said. The narrow gap between long-term and short-term rates is something Greenspan famously referred to as a conundrum. And the flat or inverted yield curve seen Wednesday is just the latest example of that puzzle. Even if there was more of a gap until recently, it was still narrowed by historic standards, said Schlesinger. Okay. So let me see if there's any more quotes here. Okay, so basically what they're saying is, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Um, they're basically trying to brush it off. That was the way it seems anyway. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Until these things started happening, saw the housing market starting to melt down, and the unprecedented decline in the U.S. housing prices may also lead to further pain for financial institutions who collectively own more than $1 trillion worth of debt. Subprime debt. One of those who has been hard hit by the sudden change in the housing market is Susie Savino, a real estate agent in the pleasant suburb of Westlake, to the west of the city of Cleveland, Ohio. During the housing boom, Susie earned a six-figure income, which helped pay for the good things in life, such as a home in an upscale neighborhood and a nice car. But this year, her earnings are down 70% and houses are just not selling. And that was kind of seen all over the place where houses just were not selling. And then we had Bernanke come out and subprime mortgage woes won't seriously hurt the economy. So here he is again. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke said Thursday that he didn't believe the growing number of mortgage defaults would seriously harm the economy, and also noted that banks share significant risk when financing private equities. We at the Federal Reserve will do all that we can to prevent fraud and abusing lending, to ensure that lenders employ sound underwriting practices and make effective disclosures to consumers. Okay, basically we already know what Bernanke did. He was just trying to smooth things over for us, paper things over. Let me get to some of your comments. Christy Fernando, they can just create their fake money continuously. Yeah, that's true. They're legal tender, but not lawful money, as we learned today. Let's see. Oliver Twist, yes, ride the curve, but still money nonetheless. Max Strong, this is not going to end well. Max, I mean, we we're serious about this. Sometimes we laugh and joke around about it, but Yeah, you're right. It's not going to end well. And again, that's why all of us do what we do as far as getting silver and gold, lawful money. We do have an understanding that while some people solely look at it as an investment, we also look at it as an insurance. So besides an investment, we see an insurance for when things do go bad. It's an insurance where not just the whole barter trade concept, it's the insurance where it's going to be able to transfer your wealth from the current monetary system into whatever that new monetary system may be. And that's the bigger part of it. You need to have that vehicle to transfer your wealth, to start putting in some of your paper dollars today into gold and silver. It's in there. It's liquid enough where you can sell it to get your paper currency back, but it's also a store of value where it'll get you through this current monetary system and into the next future monetary system. And that's why a lot of us, we do get the gold and silver. We understand this. And it's not just the investment, the ups and downs, they matter, but not as much probably as the insurance aspect of it, the wealth protection aspect of it. Because when that part comes in, it's almost it's more than likely that investment portion of it is going to kick in as well. So, we a lot of us understand that we're not just in it for the investment part of it. Okay, Phil Brown, nothing to see here. That is true. Um, Ellie, hi, how good to see you. First time seeing you here. Welcome aboard. Dewan, get physical, true. And yes, they might not do well during recession. Um, I'm not sure if you're referring to platinum, palladium, gold, silver. Anyway, let's see. Thomas, so okay, that one's answered. Okay, so anyway, so this is what Bernanke he had to say. He was trying to kind of smooth things over a bit, and he even came out and said no recession, but big challenge. So this is still 2008. He's still saying no recession, no recession, no recession. He even went to Capitol Hill to provide Congress with an update on the struggling U.S. economy. The Fed forecast he summarized called for slow growth in 2008, but no recession. And that was the good news. The Fed's forecast at that time, before it all went down, says that growth could be as low as 1.3% for all of 2008, down sharply from its July forecast. And with the economy expected to pick up only in the second half of the year, that could mean almost no growth at all first 6 months. I don't know if they could have been more wrong, or eh, these are smart guys. It's something I think they just had to kind of keep under wraps and see if they could go ahead and fix things up without it really getting out in public too much and world markets too much. Anyway, Chairman Bernanke acknowledged the problem in the second paragraph of his testimony. The economic situation has become distinctly less favorable since our July report. He went on to say what many Americans already knew, that strains in credit markets are continuing to affect many households and businesses. Yeah, this was the market that over leveraged, the one that did not see a house as a home anymore, and they were taking it to another level where they saw homes as investments. So that I think there were two distinct uh, types of views back then. The house is a home, and the house is an investment vehicle. There were really two different views. Bernanke went on to say, the housing market is expected to continue to weigh on economic activity in coming quarters. Home builders still faced with abnormally high inventories of unsold homes are likely to cut the pace of their building activity further. That will further cut jobs in the construction industry, Bernanke said. The central bank's forecast sees U.S. employment rising to about 5.25% by the end of 2008. The Fed already battled the economic slowdown by slashing its benchmark interest rate by 2.25 percentage points. At this time, we don't even have 2.25 percentage points to cut. So again, that's part of the really dangerous ingredient of this all right now. Bernanke signaled in his testimony that Fed policymakers are likely to cut again when they meet March 18th, but a number of legislators, including Republican Gary Miller of California, complained the Fed rate cutting isn't reducing interest rates for borrowers. They want that interest rate to go down. Again, these are the same things we're hearing today. They want that interest rate to go down. And I think Fed even, not the Fed, but I think Trump even had a tweet where he called the Fed boneheads recently. So these are some of the things that we saw back then that led to Lehman collapse that are even happening now. And we even saw back then Bush was saying that the economy's, it's okay. Bush economy sound, mum on stimulus plan. And this part is kind of, this part is kind of eerie because we're hearing Trump saying also economy is doing great, economy is doing great. This was the same thing Bush had said, economy is doing great, economy is doing great. And it kind of makes you wonder, that problem back in 2008 was never solved. Everybody said it's carried over to today. And we're seeing the same situations coming up. We're seeing presidents saying the same things. And, you really got to start to wonder what's going on at this point. Or, I mean, I think most of us already know what's going on, but, how is this thing going to play out? At that time, 2008, I believe this is, okay, 2008, Bush had said that the U.S. economy was on solid footing despite a weak employment report and gave no hint of what his administration may have in store to bolster growth. The economy of ours is on solid foundation, but we can't take economic growth for granted. This is what Bush told reporters after his meeting with so-called working group on financial markets. I think Trump has the same thing. He likes his working groups. If the foundation is strong, yet indicators are mixed, the worst thing that Congress can do is raise taxes. And for right now, anyway, we're not hearing anything about raising taxes. In fact, we're hearing quite the opposite of lowering taxes. So we're seeing the same thing again. What Bush is saying is the same thing as what President Trump is saying at the time. The employment data heightened concerns for the U.S. economy may be headed towards a recession and sparked a sell-off on Wall Street, but it helped move oil prices off a record peak above 100 per barrel. So it's kind of interesting here that they're talking about moving oil prices, and then we have this thing going on that obviously should move oil prices. Not saying they're connected in any way, but again, nothing new under the sun. We're seeing same things being played out again and again and again. And it's just amazing how things will just keep happening. And I'll just show you one more clip on Bernanke, and then we'll just go through some of the comments before we close up. But I think most of you remember Bernanke saying this.
The Fed was created to address financial panics, and its independence and its ability to act quickly is a key feature of what the Fed is about. And if we had not done that, and if the financial system had imploded and the economy had plunged into even a deeper depression, I think the populist reaction would have been pretty bad as well. So we were kind of stuck one way or the other. So we did the right thing, I hope. We tried to do the right thing. And there certainly has been pushback. We hope that as the economy improves and as we tell our story and as more information comes out about why we did what we did and so on, that that people will appreciate and understand that what we did was necessary, that it was in the interest of the broader public. It was a Main Street set of actions aimed at helping the average American. And as time passes and that becomes clearer, I'm hopeful that these political concerns will wane. That being said, the reason the Fed is independent is so that it can take emergency actions or any other actions, policy actions, independent of short-run political pressures. And the day that we allow those short-run political pressures to make us do something which is not the right thing for the economy, then our independence at that point is effectively gone.
Independence effectively gone. I tell you, it's amazing watching what these guys had to say back then and where we are today. I'm sure all of you have your own opinions on Bernanke, and I'll say this, my own opinion. At that time, I thought the guy was, I'll just say it, basically full of it. There was not a word that came out of his mouth that I would believe. Fast forward to today, I'm actually thankful in a sense that he did what he did. Not saying I believe the guy, but I'm saying in a sense I am thankful because at that time, 2007, 2008, 2009, for selfish reasons, I mean, being selfish here, my own opinion, I wasn't into silver, gold. I wasn't awake. And had these things happened back then, I think most of us would be in a world of hurt. But he did what he did. Essentially, they've been kicking the can down the road, and people have been getting awake. We've started to wake up. We started to understand about things like gold and silver, and so in a sense, I'm actually kind of thankful that they did not let things collapse and fall apart much worse, and extended it, because during that extension, maybe you, even though perhaps we may not particularly like the Fed or like Bernanke, we were able to have time to understand gold and silver. And that's the thing, where that time given to us, it's something we now have to extend to other people as well, to get them to, if not understand it, at least awaken to it. And that's an important thing. And we got to remember, going back to that time when they came out, Paulson and the other guys, I believe they mentioned something about we were 2 days away from a global, basically a global meltdown. And that's pretty pretty concerning, because we were 2 days away. They weren't saying anything. Nobody was saying anything. And when they came out and things were relieved, they came out and said we were 2 days away. This time around, I don't think they're gonna tell us anything. We're not gonna see any of this. They've already set things on the books as far as bailouts, which was already agreed upon, or bail-ins, I should say, already agreed upon. We're not gonna know. It's just going to happen, and I don't think it's gonna unfold the same way it did back in 2007, 2008. I think it's just gonna happen. And when it does, I'm not sure if there's much we can do at that point. So, in a sense, I am thankful that Bernanke did do what he did, because it bought all of us time. And that is something that we have to use. We all have to use wisely now. So, taking a look at, excuse me, more of your comments. Silver Slave, gold I think will be 3,500 USD in 3 years. Maybe even less. Could be even less. The Fed, Tiger Roll, the Fed creates the booms and busts on purpose. That's true. They're at the throttles. If they need you to spend money, they're gonna do this. If they need you to get velocity of money going, they're gonna do things to do what it takes. They're throttling things, for sure. But what Bernanke said, they have to remain independent. Um, in a sense, they do, but presidents have plans. They have plans that they want to put people back to work or whatever it may be, and you know, i- in some ways the Fed should be independent, but in some ways, you know, I think they do have to work together in some ways. And more importantly than anything else, they do need to be accountable to the people for what they do. Perhaps it's probably the most important thing. Okay, let's see. Silver Slave 333 banksters are only human. They can't change mathematic certainty of the collapse. That is true. Mathematically, numbers don't lie. They're already telling us what looks to be coming down the road. Plain truth. Minimum 2,500 per ounce AU in 3 years. I can see that. I definitely can see that. Max Strong. Everyone gets a trillion Zimbabwe dollars in the. Okay, we'll take it. Let's see. Ride the curve. Now they say it's 2 days away, but in the past, as in 2 days ago, too bad. That's why they'll tell us this next. That's what they'll tell us this next time. Yeah, that they're not going to tell us anything. And especially even when you look at things like the bail-ins, you got to understand. If word gets out within, let's say, the banking community that they're going to do a bail-in, guys are going to start pulling their money out, and that's going to defeat the purpose of the bail-in. So even with that, it's going to have to happen quickly, where nobody really has a chance to get their money out. And that's the other reason why you do hear guys like Brent Johnson, you do hear guys like Jim Rickards. All these guys are saying cash, have cash. Even though we understand cash, is fiat, you need to, or it's a good idea to have cash on you, or with you. And again, like paper gold, there's a lot more paper gold than physical gold. There's a lot more digital cash than actual physical cash. So in that way, it's kind of odd, but the reason it's the same, where you want to have physical gold, you probably want to have physical cash, not the digital cash. Okay, let's see. Oliver Twist. Not many people have awakened since the last recession. Yeah, I mean, thankfully us here, I think for the most part we we've awakened to things. Um, you know, I think for a lot of guys, they see what's going on in the markets, and they're in it for money. And money, like I say, gold and silver, it's an investment slash insurance slash wealth protection, all the good stuff. All of the good things are there. But when you look at the investment aspect of it, guys look at it and they feel like, hey, money, I should put money here or put money there. The returns are greater, than gold and silver. And it's, for the most part, it's true. But again, this is why guys say also just put 10% of your portfolio in gold and silver, because you still want other assets to work for you to keep pushing your portfolio up. And that's the reason why they will say allocate 10% or so. Um, there are other things that can make your money work for you, but as an insurance, and starting to understand the concept of making money and protecting what you've made, or protecting money, that's where a lot of us do understand that, hey, either I have a lot, I need to secure some of this wealth protection, or average Joe's, where I don't have much, but I can't afford to lose whatever I have. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in gold and silver. So wherever you are, whatever range you may be, it's still a good idea. My opinion, it's still a good idea. Uh, Sterling Cannabis. I agree. The digital cash will be gone in a heartbeat when it goes. Yeah, we saw what happened in Cyprus, right? I mean, I think guys were limited to just $60 a day they could take out from the ATMs. So imagine the average Joe, okay, $60 a day, he can do that. That's his. Um, I don't mean this in a bad way, but his lifestyle is still okay. A rich person, on the other hand, he only can take out $60 a day. So his lifestyle starts to change, and you know, this is where again it's a good idea to have cash on you because there's a lot more digital dollars than there are physical dollars, and it's something to keep in mind. Okay, October surprise is figure of speech for something crazy happening in October. Yeah, silver coin. I think when you go back through history, excuse me, a lot of things seem to happen during October. Don't know why, but a lot of it does seem to happen right around that October time frame. Silver slave, markets crash, Brexit, Deutsche Bank, Iran war. Just guessing. Yeah, that's the thing that we've been talking about lately, where the frequency of the events that are happening is just one right after another, after another, after another. I don't somehow they did it, but I don't see how you can short the market as much as guys were doing before. I mean, there's just too many events lined up, some that we see, some that we don't see, but they're just happening so close to each other. I think there's more fear. Well, I would think fear would win out in the market where guys are going to be jumping into more of the safe haven type of assets. Silver Goyim cut back on the gray poupon. Yeah, I remember those commercials when I was a kid, right? The Rolls Royce, the window rolling down, the guy with the white glove or whatever it was, and his gray poupon mustard. Okay, let's see. Travis R. First time I've seen you here. Welcome aboard. Jim Rickards' theory on inflation versus Harry S. Dent theory of deflation. I'm very mixed and in the middle on the short term evaluation and direction of gold and silver. Longer term horizon, it's 100%. Yeah, Harry Dent, you know, he's been saying that $700 range, I think since like about 2014, 2015. He's been saying it. And I think the ball was in his court at that time where you could go ahead and make a statement like that, and chances are you feel like it may be going down. But now I'm not entirely seeing it that way anymore. I mean, I know gold and silver just took a bit of a beat down lately, but to say 700 right now, I'm not seeing it because there's just too many events going on in the world right now. And one of them being next year, U.S. elections. That's definitely going to affect markets. Brexit is definitely going to affect markets. We see things going on in Italy as well, Spain as well. Those are going to affect markets. I think Australia is having a bit of a housing crisis, I guess I could say. That's going on in Australia. So we're starting to see things really happening all over the world, and it's not just the U.S. thing. It's happening everywhere. So I think we're I would tend to see gold and silver more as wealth protection items, stores of values that guys are going to be really looking for, that safe haven assets. Stagflation sounds about right. Yeah, totally agree with that. Uh, Mentions how he is still saying it recently on Silver Doctor's video. I didn't watch the video, but I do think they had Harry Dent on, right? And Harry Dent, it's I think he works off this demographics type of charts and things like that. But I have a hard time. I can't really see 700 gold, 700 silver. Um, the things would really have to drastically change for that to happen. Let's see. Global instability is gold and silver bullish, right? The curve. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Silver going, same thing. So again, a lot of things going on in the world. Main thing is we stay awake. Uh, Lehman Brothers did collapse back in 2008. This is their anniversary date. Not the best of anniversaries, I guess, but it should be a reminder to all of us what were the circumstances that happened, and more importantly, how to read our politicians or central bankers when they tell us things. Because we were hearing one thing and they were telling us something else, but the reality of it was what was happening with your pocketbook or what was happening with your neighbor. You know, that's always the truth. You want to know the truth, look around, look at what's happening around you, and you'll start to see the truth. So, you know, it's we've been given time, you know, like Bernanke or not, we've been given time. So keep doing what you're doing, keep getting the gold, keep getting the silver, keep paying attention to what's going on. Be your own bank. Most importantly, be your own bank. Understand what wealth protection is, and even understand what keeping some of that silver and gold outside of your own country, understand how that even can work for you. And like I said before, I would have never thought about that. You know, being from the US, I would have never thought about storing outside of the US. But looking at things, you know, again, I would look at it where, okay, if I'm in the US, I know my country is going to be heading through some serious things. If I'm in UK, my country is going to be heading through some serious things. If I'm in even Germany, Italy, Australia, you know, my country is going to be going through some serious things. Even Hong Kong, of course, the most obvious. And this is where you may want to understand the concept of having some with you, but keeping others or keeping some of it as well outside of the troubled areas or troubled zones. It's something not easy to think about, but if you really do think about it, you don't want to have everything with you in one place. You know, you need to have something that's going to be there for you once the dust settles. And it's something I've come to understand. Something a lot of people come to understand, but I also do understand the whole aspect of, you know, you people want to keep all their things with them, and there's no right, no wrong. It's just how you view things. So wrapping up, I'll look at a few more comments. Good recommendation on diversifying outside silver gem. Yeah, you know what? It like I said, it wasn't even on my radar before, but you know, being in Singapore right now and understanding how Singapore works, what it's good at, what it needs to be good at, things that it will never compromise, can't afford to compromise. You understand that it's an okay place to be. It's a good place to be as far as being a jurisdiction and holding items like silver and gold. It's a very neutral place. It's often called the Switzerland of Asia. And like I say, if I'm in the US, I do understand what's coming. I will keep some with me. Like I've said before, I will keep 6 months' salary with me, gold and silver. But whatever else I have, I'm going to keep it outside. I'm going to keep it outside of the US. And that's because, like I say, I need that to be there. Because if the fiat, the economy is going to collapse, I'm almost certain so will the government. And you just never know what they're going to do at that point. So for myself, I would consider keeping some things outside and having it in a place that I feel would be safer than if I kept it with me in the US, because it's not just about you. Silver gold is generational wealth. It's going to be there for your kids. That's why we need to make sure it's in safe places so our generations can go ahead and be just as secure as we want them to be. So, you know, that's it for this edition. I'm going to be wrapping up. Pay attention to the news. Keep staying awake. Try to awaken a friend or two. We've been given a gift from Bernanke in an odd way where it's bought us time. So be sure to use that time to silver up, saddle up. You never know what's going to happen. So just be sure that you take those two concepts in mind where you saddle up for what's coming ahead and silver up as well. I'll see you guys next week. Y'all take care.